The city moved around him, indifferent and loud, the kind of busy that made every person feel small, though no one ever noticed it. Jared sat on the cracked vinyl seat of the bus, headphones in, music playing low, just enough to create a personal bubble against the roar of brakes, voices, and exhaust fumes. The strap of his backpack dug into his shoulder, and he glanced at the small folded envelope in his pocket. $40. His last $40. Rent was overdue. Electricity bill nearly shut off the lights at home, and the groceries he had hoped to pick up this week were already out of reach. $40. That was all he had left to keep the apartment from falling into complete chaos. He pinched the bridge of his nose and let out a long, tired breath. He had been working double shifts for the past month at the diner. Morning prep, evening cleanup, barely catching any sleep, and somehow, no matter what he did, it still wasn't enough. His dreams had grown quiet. A faint memory of the guitar he once played, back when he had time, ambition, and hope, now sat under his bed like a forgotten promise. The bus stopped. A man got on, slouched in a tattered hoodie, carrying a small cardboard sign that read, "Hungry. Anything helps. God bless." Jared's stomach clenched. He looked at the envelope in his pocket again, then at the man's face. Sunken cheeks. A faint trace of dried mud on the collar of his hoodie. Eyes that had already given up on the world. He knew, rationally, that giving anything right now could mean real consequences. $40 was survival, but something inside him, a deep, stubborn part of him that refused to become cynical, pushed forward. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice careful, almost shaky. The man looked up slowly, suspicion in his eyes that softened when he recognized the sincerity there. "Just whatever you can spare, brother. It's been a rough day." Jared hesitated. Hard hammering. He pictured the envelope in his hand, the weight of necessity pressing on him. And yet, somehow, it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like it had a purpose beyond him. He pulled out the $40 bill and held it in his palm. "Here," he said, voice low but steady. "Take it." The man's eyes widened. He blinked once, then twice, as if confirming the reality of what he was seeing. You're serious?" Jared nodded. "I'm serious. God bless you." The man's hands trembled as he took it. I don't know what to say." "Then just pay it forward when you can," Jared said, turning away before the man could say more, swallowing the panic rising in his chest. $40 gone. The bus ride home felt longer, heavier, and yet lighter. At his apartment, the small space felt colder than usual. No groceries yet, bills unpaid. Yet something about the act, the decision, had shifted something inside him. Not everything, not the chaos, but a tiny spark of clarity. He had done something right, even in a world that often felt like it had nothing but wrong. He dropped onto the couch, exhausted, and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, the room felt like it could breathe. The next morning, Jared's routine was predictably grim. Alarm, coffee, bus, diner, double shift. Yet as he walked through the city streets, he noticed things differently. The way the sunlight caught on the steel of a street lamp, the laughter of a child chasing a pigeon, the scent of bread baking from the corner bakery he had passed 1,000 times and never truly seen. He felt awake, small, tentative, like a bud pushing through frost, but awake nonetheless. At work, his boss noticed. "You okay today, Jared?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, brushing flour from his apron. "Better than okay. Better than okay." He didn't fully understand it himself, but it was a truth he could hold. Lunch came and went, the rhythm of the diner punctuated by orders, laughter, and the occasional angry customer. By the end of the shift, Jared was bone-tired, but the thought of the man from the bus lingered. Who was he? What would he do with the $40? Did it keep him warm tonight? Did it feed him? That evening, Jared decided to walk home instead of taking the bus. The air was crisp, the kind of chill that made lungs feel alive. He passed the alley where he often saw a stray cat curled against a dumpster, half asleep, half starving. He paused and tossed the cat the leftover sandwich from lunch. A small act, nothing compared to the $40, but somehow it felt connected. Each act of giving, each little kindness, was like a ripple across water he couldn't see. The following days brought a strange pattern. The man with the sign appeared again, occasionally at the same bus stop, occasionally elsewhere. Each time, Jared's heart pulled in the same direction. The man never asked for anything more. He only accepted with that same faint awe, and vanished into the city. Jared's friends at the diner noticed his subtle change too. He laughed more easily. He listened better. He treated customers and co-workers with a patience and warmth that felt new, though he couldn't explain why. Yet not everything was simple. The rent remained due. The bills piled up. The bus fare didn't change. Reality had not softened because he had done something right. And sometimes, late at night, the fear of consequence clawed at him. What if giving away that money ruined him? What if there was no return? What if he had been foolish? Then, a week later, something unexpected happened. Jared was walking past a small coffee shop on the corner, the one with the sign. Fresh Start Cafe, happiness served daily. He heard a voice call his name. Jared. He turned. The man from the bus, the one he had given the $40 to, was standing there, not with a sign, not in tattered clothes, but in a clean jacket, a small folder clutched under his arm, eyes bright with something Jared hadn't seen in weeks. Hope. I found work, the man said, voice steady but emotional. A temp job at the cafe. Your money. It helped me get the first week's travel fare to the interview, and the owner gave me a chance. I can't thank you enough. Jared's throat tightened. That's amazing. It's more than amazing, the man said, stepping closer. It's a new life, and it's all because a stranger decided to trust me. Jared felt a lump rise in his chest. His small act of giving, the decision that had felt reckless, had set a chain of events into motion. Not just survival, it was transformation. The story of the last $40 had only just begun. Jared could not yet know how this single act would ripple through his life, how it would return in ways he could never predict, and how it would test him, challenge him, and eventually reward him in ways deeper than money, deeper than circumstance, deeper than he could have imagined. And as he walked home that evening, a strange, quiet certainty settled over him. Sometimes, the smallest acts carry the heaviest weight, the weight of hope. If this story inspires you, remember that even the smallest acts of kindness can change lives. Subscribe to Acts of Hope with Zach to hear more stories that restore hope and remind us of the power of giving. The next morning, Jared woke to the sound of his alarm, groaning as he stretched, feeling the ache in his shoulders and knees from the previous day's double shift. Yet, for the first time in weeks, the ache felt almost bearable. It was a reminder that he had worked, that he had lived. That small flicker of purpose, sparked by giving away his last $40, was still glowing, faint but persistent. He made his coffee, the rich aroma filling his tiny apartment, and stared out the window at the city streets below. People were moving quickly, heads down, eyes ahead, smartphones in hands, but he noticed things he hadn't before. A young woman balancing 2 grocery bags, a man running late with a briefcase, a child laughing at a street performer's clumsy juggling. Each tiny scene seemed fuller somehow, imbued with a subtle meaning he hadn't seen until he himself had given without expectation. Jared's phone buzzed. A text from his co-worker, Mia. Heard you helped that guy at the bus stop. That's wow. You're different, Jared. Happier. He smiled faintly, typing back. Feels lighter. Strange, isn't it? Mia responded quickly. It's not strange. It's rare. Don't lose it. Rare. That word stuck with him. Rare was giving something when you had nothing to spare. Rare was noticing the small miracles in everyday life. Rare was being awake when the rest of the world felt half asleep. By the time he reached the diner, Jared felt an unusual anticipation. He was greeted by the familiar clang of plates, the hum of the grill, and the chatter of the regulars. He slipped behind the counter, apron on, and began the rhythm of the day. Yet, even in repetition, there was something new. Each order he took, each plate he served, was done with a subtle care that hadn't been there before. At lunch, he noticed a man from the bus again, walking past the diner, pausing briefly to look through the window. Jared caught his eye and waved. The man waved back, a small, almost shy gesture, before continuing down the street. That wave, simple as it was, tightened something in Jared's chest. It was the first proof that his act had meaning beyond the immediate moment, beyond the envelope of $40, that now felt like a seed rather than money. A week later, the ripple grew in unexpected ways. Jared arrived home to find a letter slid under his apartment door. No name, no return address, only a carefully folded piece of heavy cream stationery. He opened it cautiously. Inside, written in precise handwriting, were words that stopped him in his tracks. Your kindness did not go unnoticed. A single act can change a life. Yours has changed more than you know. A single sentence. No explanation. No signature. But it felt like a gentle nudge, like the universe confirming that he had done the right thing. That night, sleep did not come easily. Thoughts circled him like restless birds. The man at the bus stop, the letter, the uncertainty of rent and bills, and the persistent echo of hope that seemed almost dangerous in a life built on scarcity. In the middle of the night, his phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at the café on 5th and Main. 8 p.m. Come alone. Jared's heart skipped. Fear and curiosity tangled together, an electric coil in his chest. He debated. What if it was a scam? What if it was someone trying to take advantage? And yet, some part of him, a part that had been dormant for too long, insisted he go. He couldn't explain why, only that he needed to see what this ripple had become. By the time he arrived at the small, warmly lit café, the evening crowd had thinned, leaving the space intimate and quiet. The smell of fresh pastries and coffee filled the air, soothing and grounding. He scanned the room. No one appeared unusual. Then, from a shadow near the counter, the man from the bus stepped forward. But he was no longer the same man. His hoodie replaced by a well-fitted jacket. His eyes bright, confident, and steady. He held a small envelope in his hands. Jared, he asked. Yes, Jared said, voice tight. It's me. I don't have much time, the man said, urgency threading his calm tone. But I had to tell you, you saved me. Your $40, it started everything. I found work, yes. But more than that, I was able to get into a program, learn skills I never dreamed I could. And it all traces back to you. Jared's throat tightened. I just did what I could. That's all. Not just what you could, the man said, leaning closer. What you did was courage. In a world that pushes people down, you stopped. You gave without guarantee. You became a lifeline. And now, I need your help again. Jared froze. My help? Yes, the man said, placing the envelope on the table. There's someone else. She's struggling like I was. And I promised her I'd help. But I can't do it alone. I need you. The envelope was thick, filled with folded bills, receipts, a carefully written plan. Jared understood immediately. The ripple had begun, but it was expanding, and he was part of it. Over the next few days, Jared threw himself into the work, helping someone else, coordinating small acts of kindness, mentoring, guiding. They consumed him, pushed him past exhaustion, and yet filled him in a way work at the diner never had. He saw the fragility of people's lives, the invisible cracks that hardship carved into hearts. And he also saw the resilience, the stubborn, radiant strength that persisted even in the smallest gestures. But not everything was smooth. Some acts of kindness backfired. Some people were skeptical, suspicious, even angry. Some moments of giving required sacrifice, judgment, and careful timing. Jared felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier with each decision. And yet, with each challenge, the pull of purpose deepened. One evening, exhausted and emotionally drained, Jared returned home to find a note slipped under his door again. This time, it was longer, more deliberate. The ripple is becoming a wave. Watch carefully. Sometimes, life returns what you give in ways you cannot predict. And sometimes, it challenges you in ways you are not ready for. But never stop giving. That is the secret. Your courage is contagious. Jared sat on the couch, the envelope of words trembling in his hands. Courage contagious. That phrase repeated itself like a heartbeat in his mind. He had no idea how true it was, nor how soon he would witness it. The ripple was moving, faster now, beyond his control. And he knew, deep in his bones, that the next act, the next choice, could change everything. Not just for the man he had helped, not just for himself, but for the world he was beginning to see differently. The days after the cafe meeting blurred into a whirlwind. Jared had been pulled into a rhythm that combined generosity, guidance, and relentless problem-solving. He was no longer just a diner worker giving away what little he had. He had become a fulcrum for the lives of people who had nowhere else to turn. It was exhausting, thrilling, and terrifying all at once. He met Mia for coffee one Thursday morning, her keen eyes studying him as he stirred sugar into his mug. "You look different," she said carefully, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Not like you're happy because of a paycheck different. This is something else." Jared shrugged. "I don't know. It's weighty sometimes. But I can't stop. I see people, Mia. I see them in a way I never did before. And I feel responsible." Mia leaned back, contemplative. "You've started a ripple. It's already a wave. Be careful, though. Waves can sweep you under if you're not ready." He laughed, but it was hollow. He knew she was right. That night, Jared received a call from the man he had helped. The one he now thought of as Lucas. His voice was strained, anxious. "Jared, I need you. Something's wrong. The person we were helping, she's in trouble. Big trouble. Legal trouble. And if we don't act fast, it could ruin everything." Jared's stomach sank. The ripple he had started, the wave of generosity he had barely begun to understand, now carried the potential for catastrophe. The next morning, he met the woman, a young single mother named Tasha, in a small, dimly lit apartment. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her hand shook as she held her daughter close. The problem was immediate. Eviction notices, overdue bills, and a looming court date over a misunderstanding that could lead to criminal charges. Jared felt a familiar pang of helplessness, the same he had felt when he had given away his last $40. And yet, this time, he wasn't alone. Lucas was beside him, offering calm guidance. Together, they navigated the bureaucracy, called every number, leveraged every connection, and pieced together a plan that seemed almost impossible. Late into the night, Jared sat on Tasha's threadbare couch, exhausted. Her daughter was asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling, and Tasha's gratitude weighed heavily in the room. "You're amazing," Tasha whispered. "I don't know how to ever repay you." Jared shook his head. "You don't need to. Just pay it forward. That's all." She smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. "I will. I promise." But the story wasn't done. That night, Jared's phone buzzed again, a number he didn't recognize. "Jared, this is Detective Hughes," a firm voice said. "We need to talk about Lucas." Jared froze. "Lucas? Why?" "There's been a report of financial fraud. We believe someone is using the name Lucas to commit scams. Your friend fits the description of someone involved." Jared felt the ground shift beneath him. His mind raced, heart pounding. Could it be a mistake? Or had he been manipulated all along? The next hours were a blur. Police interviews, frantic phone calls, Lucas insisting he had nothing to hide, and Jared caught in the middle, feeling betrayed, scared, and determined. He refused to abandon Lucas, because deep down he knew the man's integrity. In the end, the investigation cleared Lucas. The fraud had been committed by someone else, and evidence proved he had no involvement. But the ordeal left Jared shaken. The ripple had become a wave that could have drowned him, had he not trusted his instincts, his judgment, and his moral compass. Days later, the resolution of the case brought an unexpected twist. Tasha's court case was dismissed, her eviction prevented, and support came pouring in from neighbors, local businesses, and even strangers inspired by Jared and Lucas's story. Jared watched as hope took physical form. Food on tables, beds in rooms, jobs offered, and smiles returned to faces that had been closed off by fear. He realized then that giving wasn't just a gesture, it was a catalyst. One small, courageous act could ignite entire communities. One crisp Saturday morning, Jared returned to the bus stop, where it had all begun. He stood quietly, watching the city pulse with life. The traffic, the laughter, the hurried and the careless, the lost and the found. A man approached, someone new. Young, tired-looking, a small envelope in hand. He looked at Jared with cautious hope. I heard about what you did, he said. I don't have much, but maybe you could help me, like you helped him. Jared's heart swelled. He recognized himself in the man's eyes, the fear, the need, the small spark of hope that could be fanned into fire. He smiled, a calm, deliberate, knowing smile. Come on, he said. Let's see what we can do together. Later, at his small apartment, Jared sat on the couch and reflected. The $40 he had given away wasn't just money. It was a doorway, a key to empathy, courage, and transformation. He had learned that kindness, even when seemingly small, was never wasted. It could ripple, twist, and return in ways you never imagined. The city outside hummed quietly, full of lives intersecting in invisible ways. And Jared knew, without a doubt, that he would never stop giving. If Jared's story inspired you, remember, even the smallest act can change the course of someone's life. Subscribe to Acts of Hope with Zach for more tales of courage, hope, and human kindness. Share this story with someone who needs to know that hope exists, and together, let's keep ripples of goodness moving through the world.